answers on it. Anyway, we should probably talk about recession. The first thing we've been asked to speak upon is common mistakes that people make in the 2023 recession, particularly, even though it'll be exactly the same as every other recession that's came past. And the biggest one that I can think of is people, they all jump in the same lifeboat, which is a pathetic little lifeboat. It's a lifeboat of begging for work, panicking, losing focus, losing sight of long-term goals.
Well, I think at the higher level, if we look at this as more abstractly, what they're doing is they're allowing their behaviour and their thinking to be essentially dictated by other people's thinking en masse. So it's more or less hysteria, because the assumptions they will use to guide their actions go unquestioned. Like, we're in recession. Well, that's a fact, and even if we're not in recession, because some parts, because there's a technical definition of recession which maybe isn't applicable now. But let's not beat about the bush. The world economy is in a shit state, and all the indications are it's very fragile. From everything from the banks in the US. I mean, I've just noticed its First National is on the verge of collapse again. Credit Suisse in Switzerland. There's some questions about that. And then even the war in Ukraine. And even the fact that things like, there's North Korea rattling its sabers. And then even Australia are now talking about beefing up their weapons. Well, Australia is traditionally fairly easygoing about these things, The next thing we know, fucking New Zealand will have nukes. So all the signs are, and we got other things. I mean, we can argue the toss all day about climate change, whether it's happening and who's causing it or what's causing it. I'm not getting into that. I think it's almost unquestionable. It's happening. I'm not going to go into the causes. In some ways, it's irrelevant. But we're already seeing that there are massive water shortages in Tunisia, Spain already. It's only early in the year, and they've also already got record temperatures and droughts. And the towns with water having to be busting. So the world situation is fucking dire, and it's going to get worse before it gets better. If indeed it gets better at all in any reasonable time. My lifetime, for instance, it might not. So everyone's allowing all that shit to colour their thinking and dictate their actions. And it's all serious. I'm not denying that. And there are probably some changes you need to make, or certainly some accommodations you need to make. But to allow it to dictate your mood and all of your actions, lemming-like, is folly. I mean, I remember, again, I've run my business through, for 20 years. So what's that, 2-3 recessions or something? I don't know. And none of them were particularly important to me. It was just business as usual. There was just nibbling and niggling around the edges. But I remember in 2007, an estate agent on the BBC website, very clearly, it's one of the best examples of stupidity I've ever seen. She was an estate agent. She was saying, business is so bad, we've had to stop all our advertising, which is a shame because it's the only thing bringing in business. I can't even. I mean, I was a greenhorn when it came to marketing then, and even I could see how absurd that was. You'll do the only thing that brings in business, you're stopping to do it because it's too expensive. Well, how does that make any sense? If it's making you a profit, that's exactly what marketing should be doing. You should be putting more advertising out there if that's the case. If advertising is the only thing bringing in business, you should be focusing on doing more of it and doing it better. Well, logic. Woof, it's not difficult, people. Do try this at home. So the worst thing you can possibly do, I think, is allow other people. The fundamental rules of business remain the same. You still need to be making a profit, which means you need to be selling at a margin higher than you're buying your shit and at the cost of provision. That's just a fact. You have to be getting clients somehow. Well, how do you do that? Well, not by lowering your price, because that affects your bottom line. And even in a recession, even with, say, 20%, even with, say, 30% unemployment, which would be unheard of. But even with 30% unemployment, that means you've got 70% employment. Businesses, they're tightening their belts, they're cutting their cost base. But if you're in the business we're in, which is selling money at a discount, so, you pay us 20K to do work for you and it brings in maybe an extra 20K a month forever, Well, that's a good thing to be doing in a recession, you know. Or if you're in a B2B, the chances are, I can't think of any exceptions actually. If you're in B2B, your business is about improving other businesses, and that's always surely going to translate to eventually to bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, you should be selling on that basis, not thinking about cutting their costs by lowering your prices. That's idiocy. Yeah, and there will be those who say we can't afford to invest because it's recession. Great, fine, we'll go somewhere else then. There will still be, I don't care who you are, you know, because here's a good example for you. In this current climate, a lot of businesses are doing really badly, but some are doing really well. Well, the ones that are doing really well will have the money to spend with you. And if that means basically freeing up their time, making their operations more effective, more efficient, etc., then maybe you focus on them. So where's the work going to be now? Well, I'll tell you what, debt collectors will be busy right now. Mm-hmm. So are insolvency practices.
Very busy.
You know? Now you might say, oh, I don't want to work with those people. Fine. Remember the blame equation. Choices plus actions equal consequences. You know? We've made more sales since the beginning of this year than we have in the previous 2-3 years, I guess.
Yeah, not far off. Not far off.
We had the best month ever. In April has been the best month ever for sales for us, ever. Yeah. And the world economy has never been this bad since we've been in business. What, 3-4 years? Something?
Yeah, 3-4 years we've been in business now. I was talking to a head teacher of all people, and I play football with him. He's an elderly gentleman, and he said to me, "How's that marketing thingy going on for you?" Oh, you know, looking down his nose, Mr. Head Teacher at a school of 2,000. He wasn't looking down his nose. He was looking up at me. He's smaller than me, and he's a nice guy, so I won't paint him like he's an arsehole. He just asked, how's business, essentially? And I went, yeah, it's going well. He went, really? I thought it'd be quite tough with the recession and everything. I went, no, we just had our best ever month. And he went, you must have done like a lot of branding or something then. I was like, no, we did not do a lot of branding. We just did a lot of fucking selling. He went, and what is it that you sell? Do you sell branding? Because that's all he thought marketing was branding.
Well, that's a common mistake, isn't it?
Yeah, I was like, no, we sell marketing that can be measured, so people actually stop wasting their money on things like branding. And help them build better sales processes and whatnot. And he was like, wow, that's amazing. I've got friends much older than you, and they're battening down the hatches, they're cutting prices, and they're looking for new people to work with because they're terrified of the recession. And he said, why are you so confident? And that kind of threw me, because it made me question myself for a second, like, shouldn't I be confident? So I said to him, well, why shouldn't I be confident? He said, well, everyone else is fearful. And I said, well, that's the exact reason I'm confident, because I like to look at what the majority do, because the majority are stupid and do the exact opposite. So if everyone's cutting marketing budgets, slowing down sales, trying to work with the bottom end of the market, my prices are going up. We're working with the top of the marketing, and I'm going to double down on our budgets. He was like, oh, you're brave. I was like, maybe, but I'm not stupid.
See, this is the difference between leadership and followership.
Yeah.
You know? I don't care what people say or think and how they react to this, because there's always going to be those people listening to it and go, yeah, big I am. We are leaders. And leadership, you have a lot of I would say, power. You have a lot of influence. You have a lot of control as a leader. But equally, you have a lot of responsibility to the people you lead. A good leader leads by assent, not by fear. We don't lead by fear. People follow us because they trust us. And they trust us because we have integrity, and we're confident. And the thing about leadership is, even if we were fearful, you would never know it.
No, we'd never show it,
because there would be no point. I mean, it might sound a bit strange to people, but there is literally no point, for instance, in me being fearful or angry or upset. So I don't bother. I choose my emotions. I just don't bother. There's no point.
It's not a coincidence that two of the biggest growth spurts we've seen within our company, and people will point at us and call us fearmongers perhaps because of this, but I think it's just because we show strong leadership. We don't hesitate. But the two biggest periods of growth we've seen have been this month, when recession talk is non-stop, and also at the beginning of COVID.
Yeah.
Again, a time where people were uncertain and they were worried. And we did not cut our prices in these times. In fact, both periods, prices have only gone one way. They've gone up because we're like, hang on a fucking minute, if we're going to take this leadership role in a really, really difficult period, we're going to get fucking paid for it. And we did. We stood at the forefront. We lead our troops into battle. And we even take on the mindset of, right, we're going to lead our market, whether they're paying us or not. We're going to ensure that if they're willing to help themselves, they'll have the tools to arm themselves with. And I think that's why we've been so attractive in these periods of unrest.
Yeah.
Leadership.
I agree with you completely.